Hi, I'm Giovanni here with the Giovanni News team live. The Battle of the Tet Offensive has finally been finished. For the people who have never heard of the Tet Offensive, they are a series of offensives by Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese Army in the Vietnam War. Today is June 8th, and today marks the end of the Tet Offensive, which started on January 30th during the celebration of the Lunar New Year, or Tet Nguyên Đán. The combatants are South Vietnam, United States of America, South Korea, New Zealand, and Australia against Viet Cong and North Vietnam. The strengths of the South Vietnamese and their allied forces were 50,000 or more troops, and Viet Cong and North Vietnam consists of 85,000 or more troops. Reports have told us that the South Vietnamese army and the allied forces have a total of 4,324 troops killed in action, 16,000 or 63 wounded in action, and 598 who went missing in action. Viet Cong in North Vietnam had 25,000 to about 45,000 estimated killed in action. No new information has given us how many were wounded. It was stated by Vo Nguyen Giap that the communist goals were not purely military but political and diplomatic too. There were also many surprise attacks by North Vietnam and Viet Cong on provincial capitals. In the capital, Saigon, today is South Vietnamese and American military victory. Although the South Vietnamese and American have won the Tet Offensive, the communists have psychologically damaged them. When Giap was the primary strategist for the Tet Offensive, Giap's goals were to create an uprising among the South Vietnamese against the Saigon government, which will lead to a formation of a coalition government and the removal of the U.S. in Vietnam. Also demonstrate that American claims regarding the progress were wrong and to apply pressure on the U.S. government, and also bring the war to the cities of South Vietnam, relieving military pressure on the countryside. The first goal was a failure. Even though many didn't like the Saigon government, no uprising took place, and with no plan to retreat or withdraw for the communists, they took heavy losses. And for the North Vietnamese, the first phase was to attack the border region of South Vietnam. The second phase was to attack into the major centers of the country, which would cause a collapse of the government. A revolt from the civilians, leading for the U.S. and other allied forces to evacuate, which led to the third phase, attacks by Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese army against the isolated foreign forces. The offensives also involved military action on the most larger cities of South Vietnam, including attacks on the major U.S. bases in Saigon and Hue. North Vietnam announced in October that they would have a 7-day truce from January 27 to February 3rd, in honor of the Tet holiday. The South Vietnamese army made plans to allow recreational leaves for its forces. Westmoreland requested the South Vietnamese to cancel the upcoming ceasefire and issued a warning to U.S. forces, but the alert came too late or was ignored. General Westmoreland warned President Johnson of the possibility of a major offensive, probably against Khe Sanh. Lieutenant General Wayand suspected build-up and asked Westmoreland to shift forces closer to Saigon. Fighting began in the south on January 29 as a number of Viet Cong units attacked in 4 provincial towns. The rest of Viet Cong and North Vietnamese army attacked on January 30th. Attack on Khe Sanh began on January 21st. Khe Sanh and 6,000 men were surrounded by 3 North Vietnamese army divisions, which held 20,000 men. Until April 8th, the men were subjected to heavy artillery bombardment and small-scale infantry attacks. The siege of Khe Sanh was a diversion made to distract the Americans from the Tet Offensive. North Vietnamese had 6 primary targets within Saigon. The headquarters of South Vietnamese Army, President Thieu's office, the American Embassy, the Tan Son Nhut Air Base, La Long Bin Naval Headquarters, and the National Radio Station. A total of 35 battalions hit these points. Fighting continued until March 7th in Saigon. He was attacked by 10 North Vietnamese battalions and 6 Viet Cong battalions, almost completely overrun. Thousands of civilians were believed to be potentially hostile and were executed. The city was not recaptured until the end of February. The U.S. did not apply air and artillery strikes as widely as in other cities because of historical and cultural value of the city. The U.S. Marine and of the 1st Marine Division and several Army units had to clear the city, street by street and house by house. He was considered one of the bloodiest single battles of the war.